Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This week we are going to talk about everything narcissism related, and more so the things that they tend to do when they lose control. When you start Googling narcissism, where you're really starting to learn about this, there's two things that you're going to find early on. The first thing is this person's going to completely lack empathy. The second thing is this person is absolutely trying to control all situations and trying to control you. There's really just two outcomes that happen in all narcissistic relationships. Either you are going to be completely oblivious that you're even dealing with this controlling, manipulative type of person. You're going to be coming from your own wounds, your own insecurities, your own codependency. And that means that this person is actually going to be able to control you on some levels. If scenario one is happening, then this video is not for you, and you are definitely not watching it because you are still in the fog of this relationship. But scenario two is basically where you start to learn that this person is narcissistic, or that they're trying to seek control, manipulate you, gaslight you. Like, you're starting to learn these terms and you're starting to see when this person actually does these things. When that happens for you, you are going to start pushing back. You're going to start holding this person accountable. You're going to start seeing things that just don't make sense anymore, and you're not willing to continue with this relationship the way it has been in the past. Now, when that happens, you know, I know, we all know that this person is not going to be happy, because you were a person that was bendable, that was able to be manipulated, and now you are not that person. That means to the narcissist that you are a person that they can't control any longer. And when they lose control over you, over this situation where they can't manipulate it any longer, where you're starting to hold them accountable, this is what's going to happen. Let me just say that any route that this person takes has absolutely nothing to do with you. It's really just how unhealthy this person is, or their inability to cope with not having control over you or the situation any longer. A term that we have all heard of time and time again is narcissistic rage. And this is really where the person completely freaks out. This is where the meltdown happens, the intense rage, anger. It could be physical, it could just be emotional. It's just the intensity that this person goes. It's like they go from 0 to 60. And the reason why this happens so intensely is because their ego has been triggered. Their ego is completely losing control, and it's not something that they can gradually accept. It's just something that like abruptly happens to them, and they just don't know how to cope, and they just explode. Maybe you guys have seen this, maybe you have witnessed it yourself, but this is really dangerous at times. Depending on the type of person that you're dealing with, it can be extremely toxic for you, because you could really get PTSD from this. I think some narcissists will go in like a completely opposite direction, where they really start with like this desperation tactic that they'll start to kind of implement on you when they feel like they're losing control over you. And the desperation is basically where they kind of like plead, I didn't mean this, I wasn't trying to control you. This is really like the backpedaling that they'll do, like soften the blow, smooth everything over, so you cannot think that they're a horrible person, a crappy person, and maybe become a little bendable. It's basically a manipulation tactic. They can use that manipulation tactic, or they could actually use more of like emotional manipulation, where they really start to like guilt trip you. They're going to absolutely tell you all their sob stories about how they're the victim and things are so hard for them, and this is where they're struggling. It's all about them. And if they know you're an empath, and if they know you're highly sensitive, and if they know you're a caring person, then you're going to take the bait. This is going to be the tactic that is going to work on you, because when you hear this person as the victim, you're going to actually feel sorry for them. You're not going to see the manipulation that's really happening. Personally, this is probably one of the biggies that I myself have seen over the years with certain people in my life that I have to deal with, where it's playing the victim. They're the victim. No one else is the victim. No one else has to suffer. It's just them. And when you hear this time and time again, you realize like, oh my God, this is the tactic that this person is using on me constantly to make me feel bad for saying no, or not being bendable, or not conforming. So you kind of have to see that while there's so many different tactics that a person can do when they lose control, each person, each narcissist, each toxic person, however you want to label it, is really only going to use a few things on mostly everyone, but they're always going to learn, if I do this, do I get the outcome that I want? And once they learn that when they do certain things, they get the outcome that they want, that's going to be the thing that they use every single time on you. With guilt tripping and emotional manipulation also comes hoovering. Like, they kind of like coincide sometimes, because here's the example I want to give. If someone is playing the victim, woe is me, everything bad happens to me, no one else is suffering except for me, and you don't really, you're not taking the bait. It's not working any longer. Now they might try to come in and like hoover the situation, and that doesn't mean, oh my God, I love you and you're the best thing in the world, because remember, every relationship with a narcissist is completely different. Doesn't mean necessarily have to be a romantic relationship. It could be a sibling, it could be someone you work with. Hoovering is not about, oh my God, you're the love of my life, you're my soulmate. Hoovering is about promising to change. If you do this, I'll do this, it'll get better next time. Where this person sometimes will feel bits of remorse, and this can be really confusing for the victim, because this is where the cognitive dissonance starts. This is where, oh my God, you're like acting totally crazy, or you're being manipulative, and now you're being normal, and you seem to have some kind of remorse for, your behavior, and now you don't. It's like you constantly play this back and forth game with this person because this person is unstable. Maybe the person doesn't resort to any of those tactics, and they're just a person that when they don't get their way, it's like they resort down to like the most childish of things, which is, I'm going to talk bad about you. I'm going to spread rumors. I'm going to tell everyone that you are the problem, that this is what you said when you actually didn't really say that. You're basically going to twist everything around to not only make you look like the victim, but even ruin my character. The only reason why a person will do any kind of a smear campaign is because they want to control other people's views of you. They don't want anyone to at all agree with you, so they're going to twist stories around so they can actually look like the victim. This is all about control. This is all about being the victim, being selfish, wanting what I want, not thinking about anyone else. So they're not going to tell the whole story about, oh yeah, and this is what I did that actually really caused this problem. They're not going to take accountability for that. They're just going to make you out to be the bad guy. They want everyone to disagree with you so you can feel isolated, so you can actually go crazy, pretty much, where you feel like, okay, well, maybe I actually am the problem, where you really start second guessing yourself. This tactic is all about protecting the ego. It's all about controlling the narrative. Some people will just completely cut you off. They do not want you in their life whatsoever. It's like this very drastic ending of something. It really helps the ego that I made the decision, that I ended this relationship. So they feel a sense of control there when maybe they didn't have control in the relationship with you whatsoever. It will also very much trigger your own insecurities and abandonment as well. And they do know this, and it's almost like a form of punishment in a way. Some narcissists are very vindictive. So it's like, okay, we used to play nice in the sandbox, but now I'm not going to play nice in the sandbox. I'm going to be even more selfish than I ever was before. I'm going to just think about myself. Just the relationship completely changes, and it's not the way it used to be. Maybe the way it used to be wasn't that bad, but when they started wanting more control over you and you weren't giving it, now the relationship is getting 10 times worse because they can't control their uncomfortable feelings that they have inside when they don't get their way. One of the first things that we learn as a child is how to self-soothe when I don't get my way. So when I can't play with the toy at the playground because Susie was playing with it first, I have to learn how to self-soothe. And as you can see, if you go to a playground, no child understands that concept. That's why they cry. That's why they have a meltdown, is because they can't soothe themselves in that moment. Like with a child, when they didn't get their way, what's the first thing that the child does when they're very, very little? They might throw something, they might hit someone else, they might get really upset and have a complete meltdown. So instead of doing those things, the narcissist has basically taken those approaches out and done these things instead. They might still have a rage, which is exactly what that toddler is doing. They might manipulate. They might be vindictive. They might create a smear campaign. They might devalue. They might discard you. Like, all of these things is not something that a toddler would do, but instead of just kicking and screaming, they have to do something in order to make themselves feel better, and this is what it is. And it is all about hurting you. They're just trying to figure out what is the thing that's going to hurt you the most. Is it the rage? Is it the manipulation? Is it the guilt trips? Is it withdrawing from you completely and going silent? Does that irritate you when I just cut off communication completely? Is it going to hurt you if I just ghost you for a little while? Like, what is going to be the thing that's going to hurt you the most? And also, don't take it so personally that they're really going through this list and picking the one tactic that's going to hurt you the most. They also are going to first do the thing that most people conform to. Why is all of this so important to understand? First, you have to learn what is that first tactic that this person uses, maybe on everyone, but we're mostly talking about your relationship with this person, is what is the thing that they do that they initially start off with? Is it guilt tripping? Is it going silent? When they do that first thing and you acknowledge it, hey, look, when you did this, it wasn't really the healthiest, or now you're starting to be a little manipulative and unfortunately I'm going to have to end the conversation. So when you start to handle the situation like an adult and they don't like that, now they're going to go into like tactic number 2, which is all hands on deck. I'm going to really hurt you and cut you. And you want to learn what that is as well. The reason why it's so important to learn this in terms of the person that you're dealing with is because then you have control over how, first off, I think you really, really will not take it as personally and you will not be as reactive. But you are human and things are going to annoy you, so you will react at some point. But at least if you have this knowledge, if you do react, you will own it. You will hold on to it and deal with that later and handle this relationship like a business transaction, because that's what it does become. And then later on, when that situation is dealt with and it's off to the side because you've handled it appropriately, now we're going to handle how that actually made me feel, because how that made you feel is not any concern of that person. And we don't want to make that person feel like they're having control over us. We want to be able to own our own emotions and not put them on this person by you being reactive, by you giving them a silent treatment, by you giving them an attitude, by you getting angry. We don't want to do any of that. We just want to enforce our boundaries, get out of that situation as quickly as we can, and then handle how our emotions and how we felt in that situation with that person. Because unfortunately, how you feel, whether it's hurt, whether it's angry, you can't even have a discussion with this person. You can't even put that out there because you're not going to get what it is that you want from that person, which is basically for them to be human. So you guys, thanks for joining me. I know if you are going through this is not easy stuff to go through. First, you have to learn this, then you learn this person, then you're trying to work on yourself. There's so many moving parts. So believe me when I tell you, you are a badass. This is not easy to do, but you will get there. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. If you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, do all the things. Click links down below. I have all information for courses, private coaching, things like that. I hope you are well and enjoying your summer, fall, wherever you are in the world, and I will see you next week.